Gotta be fucking kidding.
Here's the first movie.
Did you know I'm utterly insane?
Peel that pig and slice him thick.
The body count is always bigger.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
The fucking trees walked in those movies.
Hi, doggy.
What a story, Mark.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled.
It's just like your opinion, man.
Life moves pretty fast.
If you want your sequel to become a franchise.
37 dicks.
In a row?
I'm your number one fan.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Marathon Me with your host, Kane.
And Rhys.
And today, it's the end of the line, people. End of the line. We have finally, after most of this year we've finally finished the entire Friday the 13th series, really. We're finally covering the final film in this long-lasting, legendary series. Rhys, what movie are we tackling today, by the way?
We are going back in a way to the beginning, to a movie that's just called Friday the 13th. But 2009's Friday the 13th.
Just going back,
remake.
Just going back to basics with the titles. I love that. You know, no cheesy subtitles or anything. No little number or anything. Not just simple, straight to the point. Friday the 13th, 2009.
Man, Friday the 13th is ahead of the curve because in the last 2 years we've had Scream, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Halloween that are all just reusing the original title, not even any sort of subtitle there. And yeah, this one did it all the way back in 2009.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, to be fair though, with this, it's funny because with all those movies, they're during the big we're currently in the big requel kind of era and all that. With those movies you mentioned, the new Hellraiser for another example, where it's just called Hellraiser. But
Candyman.
Candyman, Child's Play as well. Oh no, Child's Play was more. No, Child's Play that was kind of just a weird remake, but not really. But yeah.
Yeah. Are you trying to say that we're not really getting a lot of just remakes at the moment?
No, we're not. And that's why, it's kind of nice going back to this movie because, this was right in the middle of, the big horror remake boom of the 2000s, early 2010s, because you could not escape your favorite horror movie getting remade. You could not, get away from it. If you had a favorite horror movie, boom, remade. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Friday, Halloween. Even some more low-key movies like Let the Right One In or Wreck. They got their remakes. Foreign films were getting the remake treatment as well. It was insane. Every horror movie, every popular horror movie was going through that treatment.
That's a very, very good point, man. And do you feel like it was fruitful? What's your opinion of this horror remake? How do you think it holds up?
Well, I've always had a soft spot for horror movie remakes because I grew up, a lot of those ones I grew up on. This one is one of them. This was one of the first horror movies I remember actually watching. I bought the DVD at a car boot sale at my old primary school back in
yes.
back in I think 2012, I want to say. Yeah, 2012. And I was so excited to watch it. I remember really liking it as a kid, and so very interested to go back into watching this with a more proper viewing, because last time we watched this, we didn't have a proper viewing, Rhys. Do you want to explain what happened?
So, the first time that Kane and I marathoned all of the Friday the 13th movies, we had to be somewhere by a particular time, and we didn't really evaluate or manage our time the best way. So, we had an hour and a half of this movie left, but had to leave the house in around an hour. So we just played it on 1.5 speed for pretty much a majority of the film, and we got there, we got through it. But not an ideal way to watch this movie.
No, not particularly. It made for a funny experience, a very humorous time, but not the most optimal viewing. Did we do that as well with Halloween 2, the Rob Zombie movie, or not?
Not that I know of. I don't think so. Okay. I think that this one really stands out to me with doing that because all tension is just out the window, right? Like
Yeah, definitely.
Like, that's one thing that does not translate when you speed up a film by 1.5 times speed, is that, yeah, the pacing is definitely a whole fucking different ballgame.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, we're basically starting a new trend. You got people speed running video games, and like, we're speed running a movie. That's going to be the new thing on Twitch. Anyways, enough dawdling. What is my opinion on this movie, you may ask? I think it's fine. I honestly, I'm kind of disappointed by this movie, not gonna lie, because I went in thinking I was going to love this movie, because I've watched, like, I've watched clips of this movie, I've watched, like, the kill count on this movie, and, I'm a big fan of, Jason's interpretation. I've always been a fan of Jason's interpretation in this movie, and that still holds up. I'll get into more of it later, but all in all, this film was just kind of like, it was fine. That's really how I feel. Like, there wasn't really that much. There's a few good things, but there really just wasn't a lot to it, in my opinion.
This film sort of, like, I feel baits you in the same way that Jason would bait you in this movie, but it's more like, when watching it, I really enjoyed my time, I would say. Like, I had a ball watching it the other day.
Yeah.
But then, not even 24 hours after the fact, I feel like that I've forgotten a lot about this movie. And so, this is the third time that I've seen it, and it feels like the first time every time. Which, I think that some people could see that as, like, a pro and a benefit of the film. But what it means, I think, is that it's really forgettable what actually happens in the film. Like, it feels to me like it just blends in with all the other sort of, like on the cusp of 2010, like all the other sort of horror movies that were coming out at that point, and especially horror remakes as well, seem to... It's almost a very clean and literal interpretation of these IPs, if you get what I mean. Like, there's not a lot there to it. And like, that is probably the most disappointing thing about it, is that I thought that I would, a really good movie that you really enjoy, I think that joy will spread on to days afterwards, weeks afterwards, whatever.
Definitely.
Like, you take that on with you, but with this movie, I kept on forgetting that I had watched it past watching it for a third time, which is just bizarre.
Yeah, that's basically sums up my feelings as well. Because, like, with, I don't know, like, with some other of those horror remakes that were coming out at the time, I still remember some of them. Like for example, the Elm Street remake. I remember that. It was terrible, but, like, I still remember that movie being, like, terrible and really, like, questionable in terms of its writing and, like, directing. But, like, with this, it wasn't, like, it's not bad. Like, there are good things, but like you said, it's just... A while after, none of it really stuck with me, really. Like, at least nothing new stuck with me. There's only, like, maybe one or two things that I still think about, but I feel like that's a fault of a movie where, like, you watch it and 24 hours later there's only, like, maybe, like, one thing on your mind, and it's not really anything that you're, like, passionate about. Like, you either passionately love about it or hate about it. It's just like, you're like, that was there, that was fine, or whatever. Like, it doesn't work as a strength for the movie, I reckon.
Yeah, totally. Like, it's almost a perfectly neutral film, where you're right, it's not bad. It's really, really not bad. I can't really give too many direct faults of this film, but then, at the same time, there's nothing that really stays with me.
Yeah.
And here's a little bit of the trailer of that movie.
Hey, I'm not from around here, but I'm looking for my sister. She's gone missing. Have you seen her?
She ain't missing. She's dead. People go missing around here, they're gone for good. There's something out there.
We gotta get out of here. Come on, you guys. Oh my god.
This place is called Camp Crystal Lake.
Jason, and today is his birthday.
And there we have it. This is also, Kane, I think that you mentioned this earlier before we started recording, but did you notice that this is a Michael Bay produced film?
Of course, man. Of fucking course, because the name Platinum Dunes is a very it's a very controversial title, production company in the horror community, because that company was responsible for a lot of those like big horror remakes, and of course our boy Michael Bay was a part of it. Like, he was basically like the kind of the showrunner of that production company. You know, they did Texas Chainsaw, they did that Elm Street remake, they did The Hit Show with Sean Bean. You remember that movie?
No, I do not. No, that's just I know of it, but I don't remember that.
Yeah, nah, fair. I saw it years ago. I do not remember it at all, though. But yeah, so that was like kind of my first like form of excitement going in. I was like, oh yes, we're doing our first Platinum Dunes remake. Let's fucking go!
Our first Michael Bay movie for the podcast.
Oh my lord! It's funny. I used to always think that, like, because these movies had, like, the name Michael Bay attached to them, I always thought that Michael Bay was the director behind all these movies when I was younger. And then, you know, I learned that, like, you know, like, oh, you know, big directors, they don't have to, like, direct, you know, they're, like, producers and all that, you know, they use their names, you know, how, like, movies will always use the name of a director, but be, like, produced by the guy that brought you blah 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 to like to like reel in the audience and all that. I mean,
Michael Bay probably, like, he walked on set 3 times and he put a lot of the money towards this film, and that's how he got his producer's credit.
Knowing him, probably.
Man, I feel very sorry for all these kids that, like, just coming off of Transformers in 2007 are, like, huge Michael Bay fans, and then they can't even see this production of his from 2 years later.
Oh, I know. It's just sad. You know, they'll have to wait like an extra year or two for the DVD to come out, and even then, they won't. You know, do they want to get the original version, or do they want to get the extended version, the killer cut, as it is called on Blu-ray?
Is the killer cut what's sold out of car boots at primary schools?
That is the version that I got. Yes.
Yes, as it should be, mate.
Yes, damn straight. That's actually one thing I wanted to mention, is that, like, because the version I remember watching was the killer cut, was like the extended version. So watching this, the regular edition on Stan, I noticed right away that there were scenes missing and all that. Nothing really like too detrimental or anything. Just a couple of like extended moments that like were cut out of the original version, and I just immediately pointed out, I'm like, hang on, I remember this scene being longer. Wait a minute, I remember this happening. Oh right, yeah, because it's cut out.
Why didn't you watch the killer cut? Do you not have it anymore?
I still do, I think, but it's like, it's a 10-year-old DVD. It's pretty scuffed. I didn't even bother, like, putting it in because I was just like, whatever. I got Stan. I might as well, you know... Well, actually, I got Lawrence's Stan, so I might as well make good use of it, you know what I mean?
May as well. And it is just like, you know, I'll find myself as well at times watching films on streaming that I have on Blu-ray or DVD just because... The convenience. Don't even have to stand up and put a disc in.
Exactly. This, you know, this really says something about our generation of our laziness. We have DVDs and Blu-rays available, but we can't be bothered getting up. Damn, we're getting deep in here.
I was bothered, though, to put in the Blu-ray for this movie. So maybe I did unintentionally watch the killer cut.
Oh.
But because I thought that there were scenes here that I hadn't seen before. I could be wrong, because first thing that struck me was I completely forgot that there was a reimagined Pamela Voorhees kill where you also see, like, child Jason as well.
Oh, yeah, that's in, like, both versions, though.
Man, even though this is my third viewing... Yeah. Completely forgot that. Like, not even 1% of my brain registered that I'd seen that before. Well, that was a fresh, interpretation for me.
Well, I mean, like, what's it called? I mean, It is definitely. I mean, I don't blame you for like kind of forgetting that it existed. It's a pretty poor attempt to recreate the 1980s Pamela Voorhees death and all that. And you know, the actress playing Pamela in this one, she's trying her best, but she's no Betsy Palmer. Like, come on. No Betsy Palmer at all. Yeah. Like, I will say though that something that stood out. I did like the black and white filter that they used for the opening. I thought that was cool. I like a good black and white monochromatic filter. You know.
I was going to say that I didn't like that.
Really?
I was going to say that I didn't like that because it makes me think that it's like it thinks that the first Friday the 13th is from like a non-colored like era, like as in like not like a non-colored like media era, like it's from the 50s or something.
Well, I mean, knowing Michael Bay, he probably did think like, 1980. Oh, ew, this is old. This must be.
They didn't have colored movies yet, right? Like no Technicolor.
Yes,
we'll just go with it.
Yes, Michael Bay. Yes, they did not have.
Sure.
They were all movies were in. Star Wars was in. Empire Strikes Back was in black and white. Yes, Michael Bay.
From what I remember, it all was in black and white back then. The whole world.
Yes.
But anyway, one thing that's also really weird about this scene is that there's Child Jason, another recreation of what Child Jason looks like.
Yeah.
And they don't show you his face or anything. Like, you can't really see much here in this flashback. Where, like, in the behind the scenes, you get a lot more detailed look at, like, what the child looked like.
Oh, yeah?
And, man, have you seen the design of this child Jason?
No, I haven't. I'll search it up right now.
He looks like a gremlin from the frickin' Dark Crystal universe. It's really strange.
All right, let's see this. Child Jason.
But also, like, when you're looking at that, this movie, though, it does one massive thing that I find very interesting, and it cures a fault or a flaw that arises in the first ever Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah.
And we talk about that flaw when we review it. So this child, it's like we see this flashback happening, and that's in the 80s. But then when it goes to our teenagers that are being killed, both lots of them, they're both in the present day, which I'm assuming they're taking as 2009 at that point.
Yeah.
And you see Child Jason in the flashback, and he's just like a normal sort of deformed kid. And what makes a lot of sense here is that the timeline finally makes sense, where he's a child in the 80s, and then they flash forward to 20 to 30 years in the future,
yeah.
And now he's a grown-up adult.
Yeah, it's not like they're doing it like the year later and he's already an adult and all that.
Exactly. He doesn't go from a weird, rotten zombie child to a grown hillbilly man like he did in the original.
Yeah.
So this movie, does Michael Bay fix the fatal flaw of the Friday the 13th franchise? Is that going to be our clickbaity thumbnail for this video?
Dude,
Michael Bay
perfect.
Fixes Friday the 13th.
That is perfect right there. And I think you might be right, honestly. He's got one up on the original. He's got a one up on part 2, I'll tell you that much.
It is, like, on the surface, a bit of a one up, right?
Yeah.
So it does very, very well. But the thing, though, that, I still do hold this belief that in the original Friday the 13th, that Jason is already an adult at that point.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, a vision of that child Jason at the end.
Yeah.
And the grown Jason is helping out Pamela Voorhees kill people. Still... I'm still very convinced that is what's going on. But still... don't even have to look. That's what this movie does, right? That's what the remake does, is it means that you don't have to think. You do not have to think when watching this movie at all.
No, not at all. Michael Bay, he went in, he knew that he wanted to make a movie where you didn't have to think or analyze or theorize about Jason being alive during Pamela's era. No. He decides to just make it more straightforward and all that. No time for picking apart story beats and possible theories. Nah, just keep it plain, simple. 30 years later, Jason, he's a big boy now.
Michael Bay watched the original Friday the 13th in research for this one and went, oh, you know what? This movie, it's just too hard. It's too difficult to interpret, so I reckon let's make it easier. And he did.
Michael Bay, I agree with you, man. I agree.
Yeah, too difficult to get through my thick skull. But and a flaw though that I do have to say that almost puts him back. Like 1 point taken, put on, 1 point taken back.
Oh no, he's not going to be happy about this, but let's hear it.
Exactly. Is that so in the first group of teenagers that we're with, when like the sort of stoner nerdy guy is like telling the wise tale of Jason and his mother's death, they say that like and Jason was there to witness the death of his own mother. How would anyone know that?
Yeah, literally.
How would anyone know that Jason was there?
They watched the opening, bro. The opening was filmed back in the olden days. It was like a snuff film. They were like, "Oh my god, it's Jason! Oh my lord!" Maybe
that's what the black and white filter is for.
Maybe it was to throw off the police or something. It's like, no, this isn't a snuff film. It's just a film from the olden days, 1980 to be exact. No, but it does not make sense though. Like also that whole because like basically they they're redoing like the Paul from part 2 telling the story and all that. The campfire story of Jason in this one, it pales. I mean, obviously it's gonna pale because part 2's was so iconic, but it's just like it's just a been there done that type thing. It's like, yeah, we know about the Jason origin. It's like, it's not really as eerie or works nearly as much as it did in part 2.
Yeah, especially too that we just saw it happen.
Yeah.
And then him telling it, like there's no real mystery there, right? Like there's not even a false sense of mystery created in that moment in the film. It's like, well, yeah, it's true. We just saw it happen.
Yeah, literally. Like I just wanted to like reach into the movie, shake the guy by his collar, just be like, I know he watched his mother get beheaded. I was there. I witnessed
We were just there, man. And I guess that sort of plays into that it's just so easy. Like there's no room for interpretation here. Besides, well, actually, you go.
No, sorry. Because I know we're basically
you get shot again.
No, I just wanted to make because I know we're finishing talking about the black and white opening. I just wanted to mention one thing that I completely forgot about that is very funny to me. So back in 2014, when I first started high school, I'd have Lawrence, our mate, stay over at my place. We'll watch movies together. First time we slept over, we tried watching the remake. I think 2 minutes in, he told me to turn it off. He was scared. He was that scared from like the black and white intro and the loud thundering and the loud like thunder and lightning crashes and the title sequence. He told me to turn it off, and I'm like, fine. And yeah, that's basically my story. Lawrence used to be a real pussy when it came to horror movies.
Well, what a way to expose him to the world, Kane. Oh.
Well, sometimes you just gotta dive into the deepest.
You gotta rip off the Band-Aid.
Yeah, you gotta dive into the deepest end of the pool.
That is very funny, but I do have to, in his defense, one thing that got me at the start was the lightning strikes.
Yeah,
the lightning strikes freaking got me because this is like, I think the sound mixing of this film is, I get what they were going for, but I think is pretty bad. Like, as in, you have to have the volume up quite sort of loud just to understand and hear what the characters are saying. But then when there's like a jump scare moment, it's freaking thunderous. Like, as in, like,
definitely.
It shook up the apartment, and it was annoying because like when you live with people, or if you live in like an apartment building where you don't want to be too loud, I'm there turning the volume up and down all the time throughout this movie.
Yeah,
it's like,
you're doing your own sound mixing basically.
Yeah, exactly. I'm there like, okay, well, dialogue scene, volume up. Oh, it's going to be scary scene, volume down. But like the lightning strikes at the start was freaking making me terrified because I was there like, oh no, is anyone hearing me? Is the upstairs apartment hearing me as well? Yeah. So that's like, I see where he was coming from.
Yeah.
That could be very scary, not knowing what you're getting yourself into as a 12-year-old.
I had the same experience when it came to like the sound quality of this movie because I think that this was intentional on like the director and like the crew's part because they obviously want to have the jump scares be real loud, real obnoxious and all that because every horror movie horror movies were doing that a lot during that era. The loud, abrasive jump scares, nothing subtle nothing was subtle back in the 2000s. No, it all had to be like in your face, and I mean, I'm sure I'm sure you have the same opinion where like that shit doesn't work. Just like these like loud, abrasive jump scares that are literally just like jacking up the volume. That's it. It's like it won't even be scary stuff. It'll just be like boom, volume, and that's it.
Yeah, completely. And I think that this film would work the most watching it in a packed theater in 2009, surrounded by a bunch of teenagers, right? Like,
yeah.
That would have been the idea. Like, this would have been like an event sort of film more than an actual piece of cinema, you know?
Yeah,
like that. That's where I think most of the enjoyment would have come from.
Yeah.
And it's to make people go whoa in the theater, and so that they can put in and like, so there's word of mouth as well of people that also sort of hadn't dissected the fact that it was just jump scares, and it was like you could be watching freaking Play School and then there's a loud noise that comes out of nowhere and it would give you the same effect than these loud noises in this film. But then, you know, people go to school the next day after seeing it being like, bro, Friday the 13th, I shat myself watching it. You gotta see it. And then that person that hears that takes their girlfriend to see it the next day. So, like, I sort of see it in that way.
Yeah, no, that's definitely it's definitely the way that like I think they intended to have it be viewed, you know, in like how you explained it. Yeah, I agree.
Man, one thing that also I could not stop thinking about during this movie is you would have noticed, right, that there's a lot more weed in this than like
yes.
any of the others.
Dude, the whole fucking opening is them hunting down weed. It's like if you and I and a bunch of mates were going on a bloody camping trip. Like, it's ridiculous.
It was. I was explaining to Trey as well, like how what I think this is just them understanding their demographic a lot more now, and that they're like, oh, the people that would also be really into slasher movies would probably be stoners. So there's like, in the beginning of the film, they like find this magical giant weed plant that then which then, like, one of the characters gets killed immediately after finding it, which is, like, a stoner's worst nightmare, right?
Oh,
seeing
definitely.
all the weed that you could smoke that now you cannot anymore.
Nope, and he's going straight to hell for that, poor man.
Exactly right. But I've got a theory. See, okay, I'm going against Michael Bay's intention to make this the most easy to watch film, because I've got a theory.
Oh no! First he's making Kissing Booth too complicated. Now he's gonna take a stab. No pun intended. At Michael Bay's Friday the 13th. All right, let's hear it.
Okay, so here it is. Is that I don't think the marijuana plants are very spontaneous growers, you know? Like, I think that especially, like, those plants looked very well looked after.
Yeah.
So, who is it that's growing this weed? I think it's Jason. Jason.
I was gonna say, like, are you gonna say? You're gonna say Jason is the plant grower.
And also, these teenagers, none of them are camp counselors, so he shouldn't have as much of a sort of distaste or fury towards them. So maybe he's just killing them. The first one that dies is the one that found his weed plants. The Jason he's hanging around the plants as well. He is just defending his land and that he's growing weed on. He doesn't want anyone to take it from him.
Ooh, yeah,
and
true.
This makes a lot of sense too, that maybe Jason's just paranoid because he's smoking so much weed all the time, and that's why he's so aggressive, because he's so paranoid that people are stealing his weed. Yeah. And also, like, when you think about it, he's a loner that is like living just in the bush by himself all the time. No wonder he's smoking weed all day every day. Like, what else do you have to do?
True, though, true. Like, you do kind of get, like, not just with the whole weed thing, but, like, you just kind of get the vibe that, like, Jason, in this one especially, he just wants to be left alone. He just wants to chill, and then everyone's just coming into his land, and he's just doing his duty as an American citizen to defend his land. He's executing his right to bear arms, not with guns, of course, but he is doing his due diligence as an American citizen.
Exactly, man. You are completely right. And it's upsetting.
Stand your ground law type thing. Yeah. Anyways, go on.
Upsetting that he is presented as a villain for just standing up for his ground and what is his. And like it. So, and also, like, later on, too, when you think about the, the mechanic? Or, like, I don't know if he's a mechanic, but he's working in, like, a shop on his car.
Yeah, the fucking hillbilly. Yeah, I love that guy.
The hillbilly. He is living very close to Camp Crystal Lake, if not technically at Camp Crystal Lake, for fucking years when Jason is around. He's living and working there, but he is not killed by Jason until he finds his weed.
Yeah, true. Okay.
So
Jason's not happy about that.
Yeah, so Jason, all he's doing is just protecting his weed crops from people trying to come and, like, if Jason was played by Bruce Willis or something, this could totally be a movie that the roles are reversed and it's just about a humble man that wants to be a loner that have all these outsiders trying to come into his space and he's just protecting his land. But instead, no, because he's ugly. Because he's ugly and deformed, he's the villain.
Yeah, I know. It's unfair is what it is. You talking about this whole Jason standing his ground type theory, it kind of reminds me of a thought that I had while watching the movie. So when our final guy, Clay, played by one of the Winchester brothers from Supernatural, he's like going around looking for his sister and like... do you remember the scene where he's like approaching the old lady and she's like, she's not lost, she's dead, and they're talking about like, she's like kind of like referencing Jason and all that before like he's properly introduced. You remember that?
Yeah. Yes.
So I had a thought where I'm thinking like, so I feel like that the town is aware of Jason and his deeds, but because they keep, because they stay away from him, he stays away from them, and I think they kind of have a silent kind of what's it called, like a silent,
like an agreement,
an agreement, like outsiders, they're fair game as long as they stay off his land, he'll stay off their land. I was thinking that during the movie, but then it was kind of broken because I was like, oh, what about the hillbilly and all that? But with you bringing up the whole weed argument, I think that fits perfectly because there's no way that like he would have gone and been like, "Hey Jason, yo, can I get an ounce, sir, please?" No. Like he would have found it, stole it. Jason would not have taken kindly to that. He would have smelt the weed as well because he started smoking up before getting killed. So I think that I think your theory stands strong and your theory strengthens mine as well. We combine ours together and Jason is not really the villain. He is just the guy standing his ground and he's not bothering the town and the town's not bothering him. It's always the outsiders.
We've figured it out. And also, I think it ties in a little bit to this version of Jason because this version of Jason is so human.
Yes.
You touched on this before, but now we can really go into it.
Yeah.
Is like, man, he's so hungry to kill, and he's so efficient. And like that to me shows like with the efficiency, he's not trying to play with them like as much as the original Jason used to. He's there to get them killed and get them out of his way so that all of his weed is his.
Yeah, exactly. Like this one. Like, I may not love this movie, but if there's one thing that did not disappoint going on a rewatch was Jason himself. I've always loved and still do love this interpretation of Jason Hunt. I love Hunter Jason so much because he is possibly the most competent that we have seen in, like, a lot of the Friday movies. Like, I'm not shading any of the other Jasons, but, like, this one is, like, possibly, like, the most, like you said, the most human, the scariest human Jason I think we've seen.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Like, the way that he puts them, like, at the start with the first group of teenagers, the way that he, like, slashes through the tent and then grabs the woman out of the tent is just so quick and human and feels so personal.
Yes.
That's what's so terrifying about this Jason, is that everything feels so personal.
Yes. It's because they're on his fucking property is what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. They're trying to take his stash.
Oh, my lord.
Have you seen what the actor that plays this Jason looks like?
Like, I know that he's like this big, buff, built 6'5" guy or something. right?
Man, the actor himself looks terrifying.
Yeah. Oh, I could wait. Hang on. Let me search on because I think I know what he looks like and all that. Let me quickly search.
Apparently, he's a sweetie pie. Like, apparently, he's like the nicest dude in the world, is what interviews were saying.
Oh hell yeah!
And it
oh
was
yeah,
weird
he does
because
look.
it was
He does look scary. Oh my fucking god!
Yeah, he is a terrifying man.
Wow.
So very well cast.
Oh, definitely.
Probably the least that had to be done with like his actual body and like making his body look like Jason.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. They definitely like all they really have to do is just like fuck around with the head a little bit to give that misshapen, mutated look and all that.
And like last little thing to do with this like stoner theory as well is that like with him kidnapping that woman as well, I think that the film tries to present it as like, oh yeah, he's kidnapping this woman that looks like his mum, so it's like a mum surrogate. But really, he's just trying to like live out the stoner dream of living in a basement with your girl, smoking weed all day, and like that's all that he's really trying to do.
Exactly. And because he was raised in a different time in the olden days, chivalry was different back then. Like Jason has a lot of old-fashioned values. He doesn't know that it's 2009 and, things are different. You can't just kidnap a woman and eventually she'll fall in love with you and be your stoner girlfriend. That's not how it works, Jason, you silly Billy.
He's also just like paranoid, right? So he's paranoid that she's going to run away.
Yeah.
So that's why she's like tied up and stuff.
Yeah, true, yeah.
so that, yeah. Anyway, on a totally different note, with watching it on Blu-ray, I found that I think the movie looked quite nice on a surface level sort of way, like as in there's a lot of nice, very clear, crisp landscape shots, and stuff like that.
I definitely agree. There's also like a decent amount of like non-landscape shots that look great. Like you mentioned the tent, like him slashing the tent open earlier. That shot of his silhouettes, incredible.
Oh yeah,
so like genuinely really creepy stuff. But yeah, go on.
There's also a really good like panning shot that goes through that with like the main group of teenagers when they're driving off from the petrol station at the start of the movie.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
This shot like starts at the front seat and then pulls out all the way out to the boot, and then the boot closes and the car goes off, and then it keeps on pulling out, and then it's the supernatural brother that comes like into the foreground. Great shot.
That shot is it's funny because they're both Platinum Dunes movies, but this is literally like the exact same shot as scene in Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake when
really? Okay.
When you remember like the scene where like they pick up the hitchhiker and she blows a hole on her head.
Oh, no.
That is such a good. You need to watch that scene. It is such a good shot. It is literally the exact same, except like the camera pans through the car and then goes through the hole on her mouth and out the back of her head.
Oh my god, I need to see that.
Really good. It's really good.
Man, but I do have to say as well, I think that some of the like it's so inconsistent, right? Because I think that some of the cinematography in this is pretty shit.
Are you talking about the shaky cam?
I'm talking about the shaky cam, and I'm talking about even, like, the focus. Like, as in, there were some, like, single shots of characters that were, like, out of focus, and it just looked awful. Like, the clerk, every shot of the clerk in this petrol station is out of focus.
Oh,
and it was so distracting, and just looked terrible. and then, like, the shot of the wanted poster, that, like... When he's like, have you seen my sister? This is the wanted poster. And then it's just like this really boring, dull, like really dumb looking shot to just show what the wanted poster looks like that just like stays way too long. And it feels like a student film, like expositionary like cinematography, which I think never feels good, where you're like, oh, okay, I see exactly what they're trying to tell me with this shot, instead of having any style to it.
I kind of agree, honestly. Like, watching the movie, I'm like thinking that some scenes just felt like weird, but I thought that was just a problem on my end because I was having internet connection issues while watching the movie, so the quality would dip. But then even when it was like, you know, the film was running fine, there were some shots that just felt like weird, out of focus and all. Not like just subtly out of focus, where like not too much where it's like, oh yeah, definitely, but like just enough where you can notice it, but you don't know if your eyes are playing tricks on you. At least that's like my experience, you know.
There's a great argument for the Blu-ray and DVD as opposed to streaming, right? Is that no dropouts.
Yes, true.
Little lags or dropouts or dips in quality.
I'll have to watch the Blu-ray so that I can get a better understanding of what you're talking about, because I'm very curious now.
Got to revisit the killer cut. And speaking of that, what scenes are cut from the theatrical version?
Okay, so I have, from what I remember, there are two ones that stick out to me. Okay, so during, I think, the middle chunk of the movie, when we reveal Clay's sister Whitney, you know, she's in the prison, there's a whole, 5-minute segment of the film where she frees herself, she escapes, and she starts tries running to the house where all the teens are, and then as she's about to, bash in the window and all that, Jason grabs her, and I think, that's also intercut with the fucking porn level sex scene that happens in this movie as well.
Oh my god!
We'll get to that. I got something to say.
Okay.
But there's a whole segment of her escaping and trying to get help, getting captured, and then she's back to square one. I see why they cut it, because it's kind of pointless in the grand scheme of things, but because I remember that scene so vividly when watching the theatrical version and not seeing that scene, I'm like, wait a minute, what the fuck's going on? I remember this happening, and then it just wasn't there, and I'm like, yes, okay, right, I get ya, because it's not the extended edition, not the killer cut.
Okay, interesting. That is interesting. Then I definitely wasn't watching the killer cut, because that didn't happen in mine.
Yeah.
Damn. One thing that is, I think, consistently really good throughout this film, though, is the lighting. The lighting is great, especially the scene with the mask. When the mask comes into play.
Oh, bro, I was cheering. I was fucking cheering.
Hooting and hollering.
I was. Second, the mask comes into the shot, bro. Oh my fucking god, that is so good. So good. Dude, the mask looks so fucking good in this one, and it does. I will say, and even Baghead Jason in this one, they made Baghead Jason scary in this. It's nowhere near as iconic and as wonderful as 80s Baghead Jason, but you can't recreate the magic that Friday Part 2 had with Jason in that movie. So why try to top it? Why try to make him look more goofy? Why put a pillowcase? Just have him be wrapped up in some fucking burlap, in a brown dirty burlap sack. Have him look scary, and it works in this. You know, it's never thought I'd see the day where I'd be scared of Jason with a pillowcase in his head running towards me. But here we are.
They did have an original design for this Baghead that looked very similar to the Part 2 version. That was just sort of simple burlap sack. But then they decided against it because they thought it looked a bit too cartoony and a little bit like Scooby-Doo-esque.
I think that was for the best, honestly.
I like that they went with something different.
Yeah.
And another thing that they changed as well is that they had a totally different mask reveal as well, filmed and edited, not mask reveal, but when he gets the hockey mask, is what the original scene has very little build up, and the hillbilly is wearing the mask, and he's wearing the mask and jerking off to a porno mag, and then Jason comes in, chops off his head, and then picks up his head with the hockey mask on, pulls the hockey mask off and puts it on him.
Is this the original what they were going to do?
That's what they even did that, filmed it and edited it, but then they reshot the scene because I don't know who it was, but somebody said not happy with that. We need more build up because of this important moment.
Yeah.
And what a good call on their behalf, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Even just for covering their asses, that it's shit, we have a lot of responsibility to reveal this mask and let's do it right. and I think they did it right. Like
definitely.
Just the way that he pulls away the thing that covers the mask, and then it's there. Beautiful.
It's like a shining beacon of light in darkness and all that. Like, it's like a little. It's like when you find like a special item in a video game and all that. It's like highlighted for Jason to easily spot. He's like, yes, I got the rare hockey mask upgrade. Yes, let's go. I'm fully leveled up now. Oh, hell yeah.
I want to ask you, what do you think of the teen cast in this?
Most of them are kind of forgettable. I did kind of like Trent, the dickhead in this movie, just because he's fucking.
Which one is the dickhead? Because they're pretty much all dickheads.
Yeah, they're all dickheads. But like Trent is like the one that like owns the house that like they go to in the movie, and like I just he's so fucking unlikable from the start. He's like. He sees Clay in the line, asking about his missing sister, and he's like, hey bro, you're holding up the line. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I remember this guy being a real fucking prick. And then he basically just keeps going for the whole movie. Every time he sees Clay, he's like, yeah, I know your sister was kidnapped, but get the fuck out of my house. I'm sorry. My honest reaction, I don't care.
Yeah, oh man, but you just look at this guy, you look at Trent, and you know that he's going to be a bastard.
I know, I fucking know. Oh my lord. The rest of the cast is like, whatever. I did like Chewie and Lawrence, like the stoner duo. I liked them. They had a couple funny lines and moments. I was sad to see them go, and it's funny that one of them shares a name with the person that we know. That's always funny.
With your boyfriend,
with my life partner. Yes. Oh god.
Yeah, I think that the thing that this cast has separate from a lot of the other sort of like low tier Friday the 13th teen casts is that none of the characters seem to like overstay their welcome. You get annoyed by a lot of them, but you get perfectly sort of annoyed by them.
Yeah.
There's no one that you really feel compelled by, I believe. But they don't really overstay their welcome. I think that probably the worst part of this teen cast is I think that it's really showing of the time and the representation of women in horror movies at this point.
Yeah.
Because man, all of the female characters just sort of blend into each other and are written with so little depth, and that's probably the laziest part of it.
Yeah,
where
I agree. I think pretty much all the female actresses in this movie are topless at some point in the movie. Well, most of them at least, and that's basically all their character. Do you remember the name of the girl that went jet skiing and all that? Do you remember her name?
I do not.
Yeah.
I do not.
No.
I'm pretty bad with all of their names. I don't even remember Trent's name, but still, I can't remember a distinguishable trait of any of these women characters besides our main character, then that they like partying.
Yeah, literally. That's it. That's all that there is to their character. Yeah, that's it. They like partying and then they like showing off their tits. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not us being gross. That is how they're presented in this film. And it's pretty pathetic when movies from the 80s, movies from the 80s are showing better representations of women, right?
Yeah, literally.
And more deeper representations of women. It's weird. Fucking strange.
It really is, honestly. It really is. I see what I can see what the movie's trying to go for is that this one especially is really trying to double down the whole drugs and sex and tits and blood and all that. They're really trying to double down on that. So, they were doing what Freddy vs. Jason was doing, but tenfold. Really honing in on it, but sacrificing actual proper written characters, female characters especially. They just were writing a good character. We'll put that on the wayside. Let's just try to include as much drugs and tits and blood as possible. That's the main focus. That's what people come to the Friday movies to watch. And if you're a teenager in 2009, you'll get a lot out of that. But for us, it's like, what are we supposed to latch onto? Like, why do we care if they live or die? There's nothing to their personality apart from, like you said, just like partying and tits and all that. That's it. Just, like showing off their tits. That's it.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is that it's all for like the experience of this film, like as in the nudity and the violence and like how you feel during it, not for any sort of like story or narrative interest.
Yeah,
right?
no, definitely. Like no one's gonna go into the Friday the 13th remake, obviously wanting like a good story or like fleshed out 3D characters, but like. I feel
what are you talking about? That's exactly what I'm looking for.
No. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that's what most audiences would like don't give a shit about. I'm saying most audiences don't care about that whole stuff. But I think for people like people like us, we just want a little bit more. Is what I'm trying to say. Because horror movies, they can be buckets of blood and tons of tits and all that, but like. You can still have like good decently written characters and a solid story that you give a shit about and characters that you don't want to see die. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm trying to get at. That's what I'm basically trying to get at.
Yeah, that's very, very fair. I find it very funny trying to picture going to this film to the theaters with a big group of people, and then after getting out, being like, hey guys, who's your favorite character? And it's like, like people would just say who they find hottest. That's all that they would do.
Yeah, literally.
And it's like, yeah, well, they don't really give you much to really go off.
No.
Even our sort of perceived final girl is. I find it really weird that the realization of there being a killer around comes really fast, right? And she's also really, her and Clay discover together that there's Jason hanging around.
Yeah.
And they're also fairly composed. Do you feel that?
Yeah, they definitely don't react like the way that I would react in this situation. Like, they're pretty, calm about it. They're concerned, a little bit panicked, but they're not, I feel like a normal person would be freaking the fuck out. Like, in some of the older movies, people would be screaming, be like, what the fuck, what's going on? But in this, it's just like, oh no, there's a man carrying a corpse in the woods. We gotta do something. It's
we're gonna tell the others.
Yeah, exactly. It's very
and it's said exactly like that.
Yeah, it's very like you said, very composed, which is not really the most appropriate way for a character in a horror movie to be reacting to seeing this situation happen, you know what I mean? I feel like Clay should be freaking the fuck out because, his sister's missing in the woods. For all he knows, this man probably was the one that killed her, so he should be freaking the fuck out.
And she's not even, our final girl isn't even getting teary or anything.
No.
It's just you look at her face and she's just be quiet. There's no sort of, there's not you couldn't imagine that in her brain that it's going 100 miles a minute sort of thing. It would just be it would just be very content with okay, this is what we're going to do in this situation. And it's no, there would be some sort of struggle, right? And she doesn't even really care when she's very aware that her boyfriend is cheating on her as well. I
was literally just about to bring that up. She just brushes that off, and it's knocks on the door, hears them clearly fucking, and it's just there's no conversation about, not even a fucking line of dialogue after this to call him out on it. You could have easily just had maybe a 30-second interaction or altercation or whatever, but they don't even bother doing that, and it's so weird. It's just okay, my boyfriend is fucking one of my friends, alright, let's move on. It's bro, oh my God, it's ridiculous. It's so funny. It watching this movie over all over again and just seeing that lack of just reaction was so funny to me. I was having a bit of a giggle. I will not lie.
It's just okay, brush over that. Cool.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Another thing that I noticed that is just such a lack of self-awareness in this film is. It's weird, right, that the two people that aren't white in this movie are the stoner characters.
Oh, yeah, true.
Isn't that weird that the two token non-white people are like the comic relief stoners.
Yeah, it's
and like that's all that their personality is made.
Yeah,
that's my god, come on.
It's very indicative of the times. It's like very like, oh, we don't know how to. We got all these white characters. We need to include like some, different races. Let's just have them be the funny, haha, stoner, drinking, partying guys and all that, and then just that's it. That's all there is. All the women, they get virtually no character. Anyone that's not white, just make them the stoner characters. That's it. It's like let's just do the bare minimum. Not even in terms of writing these characters. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's weird, man.
I liked them. I was sad to see them die, but like, it would have been nice if, they maybe had a character moment or two. I will say I did really like this little character beat that they had where I think after like it's revealed that Jason's like, doing his stuff and all that, like he's in the area and Chewie is in the
Jason Voorhees is in your area.
Yeah, exactly. Hot single serial killers are in your area and want to fuck.
Hot single stoners.
Hot single stoners, exactly. No, but oh man, you should be on that list.
Thank you.
What's it called? No, but like when Chewie is like, after he was killed in the shed and all that, and Lawrence is like, I gotta go out for him and all. He's like, no, you can't do that. You're gonna die. He's like, no, he's my boy. I gotta go get him. Like that. It wasn't much. It was very little, but I believe that those two were friends and that he would go out and go save his buddy and all that. Like that was like the only kind of character relationship that I genuinely bought. It was very like little was very done with it, and it could have been written so much better. But there was a tiny bit of effort, tiniest bit, the little crumb of effort that I saw. I wish it was.
You saw some care.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
A little bit.
That's what I'm trying to say.
One character caring for another.
Because I don't believe that any of these characters would like each other. Honestly, Trent is like with like the final girl. Like this, I forgot that they were together, and I'm like, what? Okay, I don't remember that. And it's like you don't see it at all. Like it's weird. Like I don't feel like any of these characters really like each other. Like it's like they even make a point in the movie where it's like, Trent, why would you invite these people to your house if you don't want them like doing anything here? It's like. What I don't know. I like I said, I really don't buy that any of these characters like each other apart from Trent and Chewie. That's really it. And that's basically my whole rant.
That is a very good point. Like as in, I don't know this character's name, but the blonde guy that gets killed first. That do you know who I'm talking about?
The one that gets like shot in the head with an arrow.
Yeah, it's like I can see him being friends with Trent. But I can't see him being friends with, like, Chewie and Lawrence.
Yeah, it's weird. I forgot that character existed as well, apart from the hilarious kill that he has, where he's just...
Man, he dies too quickly.
I know. I fucking know. Like, just nothing. I think he had, like, maybe, like, he barely had any dialogue as well. It's like, hey, bruh, I'm not gonna take your bird. Yeah, I'm gonna steal his bird. Like, yeah. And then he's like...
Yeah. What does that say about me that he says not to ride the boat? So I know that I'm getting the boat.
Oh, my God. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, the kill's great, though. Like, the kills all around are pretty solid in this movie, I gotta say. Like, you gotta agree with me on that.
Pretty good kills.
Yeah.
Like, but it feels because that's what we're there for.
Oh,
like,
definitely. They didn't.
Like, that was their priority.
It didn't disappoint and all that. Like, I won't lie.
What's your favorite kill?
Oh, Jesus. I've always had a soft spot for, so at the opening of the movie where the dude, the dude that's caught in the bear trap?
Yeah.
And he gets the machete, like, really brutally slammed on his head, and you get that really good shot of, like the blade right in his forehead. I've always had a soft...
Yes.
It's very simple. I've always had a soft spot for that kill, though. I've always loved that kill. Like, as a kid,
It is a good kill.
That was always my favorite one as a kid. I don't know why, but I've always loved it. I've always loved it. That's definitely, like, my favorite.
It's a pretty good, like, quintessential Jason kill, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
My favorite kill goes to the cop that gets the arrow through his head and eye, which goes through the door.
Oh, incredible shot as well. Incredible shot, like how it pans through the door and all that. Seeing their reaction. Oh, it's so good.
that is fucking great. Great kill. Underrated kill in this franchise. One of my favorites overall.
I cannot disagree with you on that. I can't argue. That is a great one.
Okay, so we're at around like the finale now of this film. I truly think that the finale is the weakest point of this movie.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I always remember like even as a kid being like kind of bored by the finale. I will say that I got one little crumb of joy out of the finale, and that was them referencing part 3 with the hanging of Jason.
Yes. I was gonna say that there's some nice sort of callbacks here, as well as like even with that too, when he's got like the chain wrapped around his neck for a bit.
Yes. Oh yeah, true. Like, true. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's sort of like a callback to the design. Like it does try and fit in a lot of iconography from different parts of the franchise in this one movie.
Yeah.
Because it like, you know, it opens with a scene from the first one, and then we get part 2 Jason, then we get part 3 Jason finding the mask.
Like this movie's definitely like this movie's obviously like an amalgamation of like pretty much just the first 4 movies, really. Like it's basically just like it's not just a remake of the first movie, it's a remake of like the human Jason era, I like to think. And I feel like they would have done if they ever did a sequel to the remake, they would have tried to do like zombie Jason maybe, if they really wanted to go all out. But we'll never get it. We'll never see it.
Well, I don't know if they would have, because the more that I think about thismovie, it sort of tries to be grounded, like as in there's not really any mystical elements of this film. Like as in
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
You could probably believe that like this kid, this deformed child, sort of like lived off of the land and like grew up in this area.
Yeah. No,
sort of thing, just like by himself.
I get you. Maybe it's just me just wanting to. Maybe it's just wish fulfillment for me. Like I just want to see a modern interpretation of a zombified serial killer in a hockey mask, slashing and dicing in a more modern setting. Like is that such a crime to ask for?
Well, really, I guess when you boil it down, the first Friday the 13th isn't really that, like, can be perceived as not being that mystical, because it's just a disturbed woman that is coming back to kill people on paper. And then that final shot is commonly sort of understood as a hallucination.
Yeah.
And yeah, so with this finale being so weak, my mind just checks out all the time with it.
Yeah.
And like one thing that I always forget too is that they like exchange final girls. Like they find the sister.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And then her main final girl just dies out of nowhere.
Yeah,
it feels like it's out of nowhere.
That's really like the only thing that stood out about the supposed final girl in this movie is that she just dies, and I'm just like, whoa, okay, I fucking forgot about this. Holy shit! It's like kind of just felt a little bit needless, honestly. It's like, why kill her? Like, it's just, I mean, there wasn't really much to her character, but it's just like that death just kind of just felt like, I know that like shock value is a bit of a rich term to use in a slasher movie, but that's kind of how it felt. It's just like, too many women, kill one of them. Like, okay.
It really is, though. It was really that. It was like, now we've got another woman joining the group. We don't want to have 3 people survive at the end. We've got to kill one of them, and we may as well keep alive the woman that has been like, we've been sort of chasing and looking for throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, the plot device, basically, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then this entire group of teens that come to the cabin die. Like, not one of them survive.
Nope, not at all.
And I hate that. I hate when they do, like, there was another, was it part 4? It was part 4 that also did that, right?
Oh,
where the entire...
Yeah, they killed the entire cast, and then it's just like a different group that are like the final characters. Yes, yeah.
That is a terrible, terrible insult, I feel. Unless there's something that they're trying to do or trying to say with that, it feels like an insult to your time, and like none of it actually even mattered.
Yeah.
Like, no one even goes on with the tale of this Jason and this massacre because everyone's just dead anyway.
Yeah, it's very like, it's not good at all. I don't, and honestly, given the man partially responsible for this movie, Michael Bay, I don't think he had any like anything to say about killing off the whole group and then having the final survivors be a different group and all that, unrelated to the central characters and all that. I don't. Michael Bay, I don't think he's really saying much, honestly, but I could be wrong. I could be underselling the man.
Man, this whole movie has nothing to say.
I also love that, like, we keep talking about Michael Bay like he is the one responsible for this movie, even though he is just the producer, but, like, it's Michael Bay, like, come on, man, we're not gonna... we're not gonna make...
It's funny to imagine that he's making the calls.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Like, the man seems like the kind of guy that would be, like, really just, like... Oh, let's do this, let's do that, like without even just like thinking and all that, like with the Transformers movies, for example, like just doing things, not thinking about it. I'm sorry. Hey guys, hot take: the Transformers movies fucking suck.
Well, Kane, what are your closing remarks for Michael Bay, who is solely responsible for this film?
Michael Bay, I would like to just say one thing to you, Michael Bay. You are responsible for the first ever film sex scene I had ever seen in a film, and I just want to say thanks, I guess. Even though, thank you for introducing me to porn before I even started watching porn.
My final message to Michael Bay is that ultimately, a fairly successful film and what you're trying to go for. I enjoyed my time, and it's a good adaptation to, like, the 2000s metal slashers, but ultimately succeeds to the point that it is almost lost amongst the oversaturation of these films at this point in time. And even just the way that it does not resonate in my mind past to watching it makes it almost infinitely, like, rewatchable, but does not linger, like, the taste of this film does not linger in your mouth afterwards. Everyone, have a wonderful night, and we'll catch you next week. And don't forget to check out our Facebook page at MarathonMeOfficial, all one word, and our Instagram, MarathonMe_official, to keep up to date on the podcast. And hey, if you want to get into contact with us, email us at marathonmepodc, yes, the letter C, @gmail.com. Like podcast without the arse.